It's around that time again. You know the Game Awards, one of the most worthless events in history. Yet for some reason people still take these events seriously, and I really don't understand why, when 90% of the votes on what gets Game of the Year are decided by game journalists. And I'm convinced half of them hate video games and everything gaming stands for. It really should be the other way around, where 90% of the votes are decided by gamers and 10% are decided by games journalists. Because gamers are the ones that actually play video games and their opinion holds more value. When The Last of Us 2 won Game of the Year in 2020 despite all the controversy, I knew at that point this show was meaningless. Also, let's talk about last year. Remember Black Myth Wukong, the game that game journalists wrote slanderous hit pieces about? They tried their hardest to make sure this game failed. However, gamers being gamers checked it out and realized it was awesome and ignored game journals screaming about how awful it was. This game ended up breaking Steam records, becoming the second most concurrent played game on Steam of all time, and it knocked Palworld down to the number 3 spot. So with those stats, you would think it would win Game of the Year, right? I knew it wasn't gonna win because of the game journals, but at least it was nominated. But for some reason, people act like this is a sports competition and get irrationally angry when their favorite game doesn't win Game of the Year. Rush to Twitter, call the show rigged, and argue with 1,000 people about why their favorite game should have won and how it got snubbed. They act as if not winning Game of the Year makes the game worthless. And I'm looking at the nominations right now, and I can say it's a good lineup. I played Hollow Knight Silksong and I loved it. People wanted that game so bad to the point it crashed Steam to the point you couldn't even buy the game. I had never saw these ugly characters on Steam before Hollow Knight Silksong. In Expedition 33, I heard good things about it, but I haven't had the chance to play it yet. Also, this game managed to enrage AAA devs, so that's a +1 in my book for that. This is the game I think will actually take the prize. My reasoning is, I remember Baldur's Gate 3 that won in 2023. It ended up doing the same thing. It pissed off AAA devs and it took Game of the Year prize. And while Hollow Knight Silksong also pissed off AAA devs and indie devs for some reason, it didn't make the same waves as Expedition 33. I don't get what the issue with Hollow Knight Silksong was, but it was a great game and I can't wait for the DLC. I would take out Donkey Kong Bonanza and replace it with Digimon Story Time Stranger. You know, aside from the greedy practices from Bandai such as paying for DLC that gives you access to the extra grinding dungeons, which does not come with the Ultimate Edition of the game, by the way, the $120 version. Not cool, Bandai. But aside from that, the game itself is great, and I had fun with it to the point I reached Agent Rank 10. Now on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I heard great things about this one too, but I'm stuck between buying this or Tainted Grail. Let me know in the comments which one I should get. I don't have interest in these other games, so I don't have much to comment on them. If you ask me, my personal Game of the Year was Fantasy Life I Had the Girl Who Steals Time. It was a sequel to the Nintendo 3DS exclusive Fantasy Life, and I loved it so much I put in 55 hours. But guess what? It wasn't nominated for any awards, in any category. And speaking of categories, another reason why you shouldn't take this seriously is this. Why is Baldur's Gate 3 in the best community support category when it didn't even come out this year? Now don't get me wrong, I love Baldur's Gate 3, I put 205 hours into it. But that game came out in 2023 and won Game of the Year. Shouldn't this game be exempt from any further rewards at this point? In fact, none of the games in this category are games that came out this year. But here's another reason why you shouldn't take this show seriously. Here we have the content creator category, which nothing against these creators, but this is supposed to be a show about video games. Why do we have a weird category like this? What's next? Are we gonna have best e-girl category? In fact, some of these categories feel pretty pointless just by the name alone. I would say the only real reason to watch this show is for the trailers, because I might end up seeing a game I like and you might end up seeing a game you like. I don't really care about Game of the Year. Best VR? Who cares about VR? Until we get VR like Sword Art Online, nobody really cares about VR games. Innovation and accessibility. Is this a DEI category? Recognizing software and or hardware that is pushing the medium forward by adding features, technology, and content to help games be played and enjoyed by an even wider audience. Oh yeah, that's a DEI category. That would explain why Assassin's Creed Shadows is in there. Worthless category, don't care. Best RPG. Why is Avowed here? I didn't realize how bad Avowed was until I saw Skyrim and Oblivion comparison videos on YouTube. Keep in mind, Oblivion is 19 years old and is somehow crapping on Avowed. Skyrim came out almost 15 years ago and it's also crapping on Avowed. And Avowed is $70. You might as well take your $70 and burn it. You would get more value from your money that way. I would take out Avowed and put in Digimon Time Stranger. That's a game that reviewed more favorably by gamers despite its flaws, and it was actually worth your money. And I'm seeing Expedition 33 in a lot of categories. I think it might end up sweeping. I don't know how I feel about Monster Hunter Wilds being here. I think Wilds was a step down from Worlds in terms of difficulty, and the game still has performance issues to the point it's also still sitting at a mixed reviews on Steam because Capcom won't fix their game. In fact, I can pull up a few of them right now. Very good game. Would be even better if my PC didn't produce the heat of the sun during playtime though. Very fun. Poor optimization. Capcom can do better. Game is a delight though. And these are positive reviews, so even the people who recommend this game are saying it has performance issues. Now on my personal experience with the game, I have had performance issues when I played it as well. I had it crash on me a couple of times during the main story. I even had an issue where the game would crash when I first installed it. I beat it, but I don't think I'll be going back to it anytime soon. Instead of buying Wilds, I would recommend World over Wilds right now, mainly because of the performance and the price point. World with the Iceborne DLC is $40, so you save $30 if you buy World instead. Definitely they should replace Monster Hunter Wilds with Fantasy Life I, the Girl Who Steals Time. That game actually worked properly on launch and it's getting a free content update this winter. And if we go on Twitter, there are a few people whining about Expedition 33. However, I wanted to focus on one tweet in particular because it stood out to me the most. Expedition 33 is a solo leveling of video games. Aggressively mediocre, beloved by people who just like it, but don't know why. Cleverly disguised as something that it isn't. I have a lot to say about this tweet. First off, if a lot of people just like something, then maybe that's a sign that it's a good product. I don't think a lot of people just like a bad product, but what do I know? I think that's just my common sense at work. This tweet comes off as, this thing is popular and I hate it because everyone else likes it. And he mentioned solo leveling, which speaking of solo leveling, I saw the same thing happen with solo leveling. There were people like this guy who showed up in the comment sections trying to roast people for liking something that's popular. And I know why people do this. They do it because they get to feel like they're smart or some higher level thinker because they can't understand why some people like a popular thing. Young Defiant does the exact same thing, but I suspect he might be grifting. Here, look at some of his titles. If you buy Dying Like the Beast, you're an idiot. Nintendo Switch 2 haters are broke idiots. Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders sold out. Worst games of 2024. Most overrated, disappointing garbage games of 2024. Baldur's Gate 3 is the worst game of 2023. Baldur's Gate 3 is overrated garbage. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero sucks. Worst Dragon Ball ever. Don't buy Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is the most overrated game of 2025. People are just weird, man. And I saw the same thing happen with Baldur's Gate 3 when it won Game of the Year. People rushed to Twitter and did everything to try and trash not only Baldur's Gate 3 but turn-based games in general. I would recommend just going into the show and having fun. Maybe get a few beers, kick it with your friends, and don't take this show seriously. And don't get pissed off about a game you like not getting the reward. It's really a waste of your energy. But hey, if you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it so much if you would consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out the channel, and if you made it this far, you're the best. I appreciate you so much, and I'll catch you next time.